Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Squire, for those comments about not sure if we're just rearranging chairs, if there's a solution here, because I don't think what's before us tonight is a solution. I think what's before us tonight is a first step in tackling a problem that we heard from both of the agencies involved. The HDC said, you know, they would concur with a single governance model. If we have to change models, that's what they would prefer to see. LMCH, the first couple of sentences we heard were, there's a flawed business model here. And how we start to tackle those issues starts with changing the governance structure, breaking down silos, and having one person who's accountable to us as the shareholder, to the citizens of London as a shareholder, one person who's going to coordinate and start to make some headway on some of these things. The vacancy rate has captured people's imaginations, but the vacancy rate is only one issue. It's the tip of the iceberg. There are other things that are very real factors in affordable and geared to income housing in this city. And I hear affordable housing mentioned all the time. I don't hear geared to income mentioned enough, because frankly, that's where our biggest gap is right now. That's why we have a waiting list as long as we have, because we don't have the supply there. And we do have a flawed business model where we have 50-year-old assets that we can't remortgage to pay for the repairs and revitalization. I get that. I really do. And I want to say, like, this is going to be a hard decision to make. Marcy Easton Allen is somebody I consider a friend. And I know that she's not alone in the board members at LMCH who've really poured their heart and soul into the work that they're trying to do. I know that staff at LMCH are doing the very best with the limited resources that they have. I get it. I also, when I look at a KPMG report and hear that 87% of the unit repairs of the sample that they pulled didn't have a level of repair order assigned to it, I see a structural problem. And I absolutely know that Mr. Brown is speaking with his heart when he says he wants to pick that tenant every time. Sometimes, though, we have to strike that balance, because picking that tenant might mean leaving somebody sleeping outside that night. So we don't have a solution that's going to fix housing in this city, folks. All we are talking about is an interim step here in terms of the governance structure to start turning the ship around and to start steering it in what we hope is the right direction, so that a year from now, we can see some progress being made. And I absolutely see this as an interim step, because one person, we will lose out on the lived experience that was highlighted as being so very important with only one person. But I don't think that one person is going to ignore the advice and the input from the tenants, past and present. And I think that in the long term, when we get back to reviewing where we go past this interim governance step, we absolutely need to make sure that current tenants are part of the voice, part of the decision-making process. But for me right now, this step, this first step in fixing housing, and yes, it is a bit of a retreat into command and control. I don't disagree with that. But in this case, it's a retreat because we're losing the battle. The wait lists are getting longer. The repair expenses are getting more costly. We can't possibly absorb a 17% operating budget increase for housing and a 15% budget increase for transit, and the other increases that will no doubt be asked from other boards and commissions, and still keep people who are actually not that far from not being able to stay in their homes if we slap those costs onto property tax hikes. So we have to strike that balance. So colleagues, I'm going to urge you to support this motion from the mayor, keeping in mind that this is an interim step. Our work on this file is only beginning, and we've got a long way to go, but we have to start somewhere.
Thank you. Councillor Shawn Lewis.